think one of the biggest challenges I've had this week is just that constant need to be recalibrating with the routine and structure.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. Hello, my name's Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm the author of 6 books about raising happy families, and I'm here with my wife and podcast partner, my co-host, Mrs. Happy Families, Kylie. We're the parents of 6 daughters, and it's Friday.
We've had some feedback.
Oh, yeah. You're saying that like it's concerning. We've had some feedback.
We have had some feedback.
Well, I like the 5-star ratings we're getting on Apple Podcasts. Is it that kind of feedback?
It's not.
What's the feedback?
Well, our nieces have been listening to our podcast.
Have they really?
Yes, they have.
Oh, this is news.
6, 9 and 13.
Right.
They said you're too lovey-dovey.
I'm too lovey. Oh, am I really? But how could I not be when I'm sitting here by you?
Oh.
That's just for them.
Just for them. Well, happy Friday. I can't believe we've made it to an end of another week, and it's been full of ups and downs.
Yeah, family life is like that. There's a story. This could be a podcast where I could tell a story. Are you up for, you like my stories?
I love your stories.
Okay. There's a story that I love to tell at the end of one of my workshops, and I think it's pretty much one of my highlight stories. It's a story of...
Let's just get it straight. I shared this story with you, so it's actually my story.
Okay. There's a story that Kylie shared with me that now I share at the end of all of my workshops, and it sort of highlights what family life is like. And maybe maybe we can have Storytime Friday. So many years ago, it's the 1800s. There's the gold rush. Everybody's heading west or east or wherever they're going to find the gold. If you're in the United States, they were all heading to California. But here in Australia, people were heading to Ballarat and Bendigo, where the gold rush was on, and the towns, those rural populations, were swelling with everyone racing off to strike it rich and find that buried treasure. One young man got caught up in the excitement and left Melbourne so that he could race out to the goldfields in Bendigo. He sat down by the river and started panning for gold. And while he was panning, these rocks would come into his pan and he'd pick them up and think, this could be it. This could be the nugget that's going to change my life. This could be the nugget that's going to make me a millionaire. Never happened. He just kept on pulling these rocks out of the pan and looking at them and discovering that they were not gold nuggets at all. And so he'd throw them into a pile beside him. Some of them were large, some of them were small. But eventually the pile became a mound, and the mound became a little miniature hill beside him. After a few months, this young man realised that it had all been for nothing. He'd run out of money. He hadn't found any gold nuggets, and he was destitute. He had no food. He had nothing left. He didn't even have any shelter. His shoes were ruined, and he was going to have to... he was wearing rags. He was going to have to go home and ask his parents to take him back and beg for support while he tried to get his life started all over again. So as he's sitting on this riverbank feeling despondent and dejected, a wealthy prospector wanders by, comments, "It's quite a pile of rocks you've got there, son," and continues walking. But the young man is not in the mood for being mocked by the wealthy prospector, and so he calls out, "Yeah, what would you know? I've been here for weeks. I've been here for months. I've run out of everything. There's no gold in this river. It's all lies. They just made it up." The prospector, I guess he thought, well, I'll bite. I'll take the bait. So he turns around and says, "Young man, I think you're mistaken. This river is teeming with gold." The young man just splashes at the water, kicks his foot out at the pile of rocks, says, "There's no gold here. I've been looking. I know there's no gold." So the prospector wanders over and picks up one of the rocks in the pile and cracks it on the tin of the young man, that pan, and looks at it and says, "I think you're mistaken." The rock kind of crumbles in his hand, and all of these tiny flecks of gold can be seen glinting in the sunlight. The prospector says, "You're sitting on a pile of gold right here. Look at all these gold flecks." And the young man responds, "I'm not looking for gold flecks. I'm here looking for nuggets like you've got in your pouch." The prospector was wearing this pouch on his belt that was bulging with gold. So the prospector kneels down and opens up the top of the pouch, inviting the young man to look, which he does. And the young man discovers that there are no nuggets in that pouch at all. Instead, the pouch is full of thousands and thousands of tiny flecks of gold. The prospector says to the young man, "Son, it's the steady accumulation of all of these flecks of gold that has made me wealthy." So, Kylie, I think that family life's a lot like that. You know, we sit down by the river and we kind of expect gold nuggets to be rolling down the river of family life.
Well, you know, you open up a parenting magazine and you've got the pearly whites and the manicured hair while they're having a cuddle in bed.
I love the fact that they're in bed with these perfectly crisp linen sheets and their hair has been blow dried and they're wearing makeup, but they've only just woken up.
Just woken up.
And none of them have morning breath. Like, you know.
Clearly those smiles are suggesting they definitely don't have morning breath.
And so family life, I mean, it's just hard. You know, it's rocky and it's bumpy and it's dirty and it's messy and sometimes it's wet. You remember those mornings? I mean, our kids are past this now, but do you remember those mornings where you'd roll over into a wet patch in our bed because one of the kids had gotten into bed and wet our bed as well as their own bed, and we'd roll into the wet patch and then your hip would be like, oh my goodness, what is this wet patch that I've just rolled into?
I am really glad we're past those days.
Family life's really, really tough. And so as we get to Friday, you know, sometimes we talk about what we're going to do better tomorrow. Sometimes we talk about how we're going to have a great weekend. But I just thought it was worth pausing and considering, no matter how tough this week has been, what are the gold flecks in family life that we've experienced this week? And what do they teach us about making our families happier? Let's talk about that in just a sec.
For a happier family, try a Happy Families membership, because a happy family doesn't just happen. Details at happyfamilies.com.au.
It's the Happy Families podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. Hello, Dr. Justin Coulson and Mrs. Happy Families, Kylie, with me. Let's talk about these ups and downs, these challenging moments, and any gold flecks that we've experienced this week. How do we find them?
I think one of the biggest challenges I've had this week is just that constant need to be recalibrating with the routine and structure. We all know what needs to happen.
Yeah, it's so frustrating,
and
isn't it?
yet it just seems like there's just this constant need to kind of, you know, bring everybody back in and, you know, recalibrate and reconfirm what needs to be done so that we can move forward. It can be really exhausting as a parent.
Yeah, because the kids know what to do. We know what to do. We know what time we're supposed to go to bed and we're supposed to all be nice to each other and all that sort of thing. And yet it's hard to make it happen day in and day out, just being consistent. So what's the gold fleck to come from that?
Well, the gold fleck this week in relation to that was that we were able to sit down with the kids and we had another family meeting.
What's going well, what's not, what are we going to do about it?
And we pulled out the job list and acknowledged that everybody had kind of left it up to mum this week. And we reconfirmed what everybody needed to do. And within a couple of hours, the house was spotless and everyone had just chipped in without complaint. And did what was required. It just felt great.
I think that's a really central thing, isn't it? Just remembering that the kids actually are awesome and they want to do the right thing, but sometimes they get caught up in their thing while we're getting caught up in our thing, and it just kind of backfires a bit. But you have those moments and you're like, yeah, this is working. This is good. You know what my gold fleck was?
Tell me.
We went and made a late birthday purchase. You and I, and we bought a couple of, I mean, there's no other word for it. They're doodads. They're things that were not on our budget. They're things that we really are probably going to pay the price for many times over because we bought them, but we bought a couple of electric scooters and just seeing how much fun the kids are having. I mean, they're not even for the kids, right? But the kids are fully addicted to them. and I can just see the gold fleck for me is seeing the kids smile. It's really, really simple stuff, and it doesn't require a scooter. It could be some Lego blocks, or it can be sitting down and watching a movie. It can be, you know, pulling some old school popcorn kernels out of the pantry and cooking them in some oil on the stove, I should say. I'm not very good in the kitchen, obviously, but it's just seeing the kids light up and smile to me, that's, I don't know if there's anything better than that.
Well, the highlight out of that, I think, is just that one-on-one time that we got to spend with the kids in that kind of out-of-the-box experience with them. I really enjoyed seeing their faces light up as they tried a new skill.
So the take-home message from this podcast is a pretty simple one today, and that is that family life can be challenging, but there's going to be something to reflect on. Something that's reflective. You know, the gold flecks are there. We've just got to look for them, find them, and celebrate them, because not only can family life be really challenging, but it can also be the most rewarding thing in the world.
Well, I guess when I think back to that story, the thing that stands out to me is, who do I want to be in that story? Do I want to be the young prospector who just is collecting this pile of rocks and that's all he sees?
Oh, you're good.
Or do I want to be the old prospector who recognises that those rocks are actually going to provide him with the flecks?
There are thousands and thousands of flecks of gold, and if we find them, if we look for them, they'll make us wealthy.
Love it.
Ah, so much joy there. Hey, it's Halloween this weekend. We're not huge on it, although we do like the idea of community. We don't love the idea of the kids filling up on junk food. If your family is doing Halloween, good luck with that. I hope that you have a nice weekend.
Well, I've done something really cool.
Yeah.
I found somebody who's holding a Halloween party. I don't have to do anything.
Really? Are we going?
We are.
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to be the best mum ever.
Do I have to dress up?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, well, I'm sure that we can find a gold flex somewhere. If they have good candy, good lollies.
Candy.
And they're good candy. We'll have a good Halloween. We'll see. We so much appreciate you listening to the podcast. If you've got any feedback for us, if you want us to know stuff, send us an email, podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. We've actually been getting some podcasts mail at happyfamilies.com.au, and we're going to talk about some of the questions that have come through via podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au in the next couple of weeks. So thank you for sending those through. We also appreciate you leaving ratings and reviews at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for the 5-star reviews and ratings that keep on coming through. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Roulon. Thank you, Justin, for doing what you do to make us sound great and putting up with all of our take 1, take 2, take 56, take 58. And our executive producer is the magical Craig Bruce. If you'd like more information about how your family can flourish, especially if you'd like ongoing monthly support, please visit happyfamilies.com.au and click on memberships. We have an amazing membership offer that I think will change your life, because a happy family doesn't just happen. And if you'd like more info about where you can find out about what we do, visit us at Instagram, or you can find us on Facebook at Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families.